This is going to be a discussion between myself, Cameron Williams, and Ibrahim of IGC Fashion. This is for Fashion Open Studio, and we're just going to talk about the importance of culture and integrating that into our uses of bark cloth and indigenous textiles as well. So yeah, Ibrahim, if you want to kind of introduce yourself and your brand.
Hey, my name is Ibrahim. I'm one of the founders of IGC Fashion. IGC is Ibrahim and Godfrey's community, and it's a fashion brand that was started as a CBO, community-based organization, but later turned into a fashion brand. And we drive for sustainability in while maintaining our culture and heritage. So we derive our inspiration from culture, nature, and we are Uganda-based fashion brand using backcloth.
Cool. How long have you been running your brand for?
Yeah, so we've been running our brand since 2017. That's when we officially started. So before that, we were doing fashion ciphers. We started a thing called fashion ciphers in 2016, and it's basically going around and teaching people about fashion, youth, kids on the streets, the buttwork, marginalized groups of people, teaching them like these skills to like give them an income generating activity.
And I'm Cameron. I'm the designer of the brand NUBA, based in London, and I use bark cloth and incorporate it with other textiles. And my use of bark cloth is heavily influenced and integrated into the charity Hands Up for Uganda and the company Barktex Germany. And yeah, my bark cloth is mainly used in accessories and to create sculptural shapes. And yeah, the brand is pretty much inspired by the transcendence of culture and sort of focusing on the travel of culture and the meaning of culture from one place to another, and within the context of my own upbringing and my own background. Tell us a bit more about the cultural relevance of bark cloth in terms of Ugandan culture. I know that it has its recorded history since 1200s, and it's heavily used during ceremonial events in Ugandan culture. But could you tell us a bit more about the cultural relevance of bark cloth?
Backcloth is traced back to the rule of the Buganda kingdom of Chimera. That was the king at that time who ruled from around 1374 to 1404. And at that time, the use of backcloth was limited to the royal family. So it was only the royals that could wear the backcloth. It was a sign of wealth and prosperity. But then in the 18th century, there was a Buganda kingdom, a Buganda king, another one called Semakokiro, who decreed that all his subjects would begin to manufacture backcloth. So this saw like a rise in the production of backcloth, but it also gave Bugandan kingdom a lot of wealth from the trade of backcloth, because at the time it was the only textiles. But then there was the colonization, like the scramble and partition of Africa began, and backcloth saw a significant decrease during this period as the English government encouraged the growth of cotton instead of backcloth for trade. Missionaries even called backcloth satanic. So this made people even like make backcloth not to be involved with backcloth. During the World War I, the British government took down more than 200,000 trees of backcloth, the Mutuba trees, which affected also the production. And this was done just to protect the borders of German East Africa from the surrounding countries of Uganda from attacking Uganda. So like to make fences, so they cut down the trees. But then after the war, so people wanted to make the trade. They wanted to like boost the trade of cotton, but cotton could only grow well under the shade of the Mutuba tree. So they had to plant the trees. So they had to plant the trees again,
Yeah.
And then so people people planted the trees again, and then this served like the also the culture, because when Mutesa, the other king, in it was I think around 1953, Mutesa was exiled. The king was exiled, but when he came back, people to celebrate that they were in accordance. They were how do they call it in English? They were in solidarity with the king.
Right, right.
The symbol was to wear back cloth. So it was a pride to wear back cloth, and like this is our culture, to make a statement to the colonialists that even if you exiled our king, but this is like of real significance to us. Like we need our king, you know. Yeah. So this is a little bit about the culture. Yeah.
From that, we can kind of see like our use of it now definitely is sort of forming its own sort of cultural relevance. You know, like the way that we're sort of reintroducing it into the fashion supply chain, and you know, into manufacturing processes, and you know, sort of trying to give it the same sort of usage as a lot of other traditional textiles, and a lot of other textiles that are widely used in fashion. I think is sort of, you know, trying to bring it back, and also give it a sort of new economic relevance as well to not only Ugandan culture, but I think to the fact that a lot of countries, when colonized, they do actually get rid of a lot of important and sustainable ideals, whether it be about textiles or whether it be about, you know, food production or architecture and things like that. You know, I think because it has such cultural relevance in terms of its royal and ceremonial significance. I think it's definitely a great thing that, you know, we're trying to sort of reintegrate it into some sort of economic profitable chain of supply of textiles. I think definitely for me, I read a lot into, you know, sort of the changes that happen when colonialism happens. And I think, you know, with respect to Uganda, trying to use bark cloth and sort of incorporate that into sort of finding a new meaning to these cultural symbols, and to sort of, you know, bring them forward into the context of today, not only can teach us about, you know, where we are at the moment, but also, you know, try to kind of reflect back onto the things that happened, and, you know, try to find ways to sort of move forward and to, you know, regain our identity and, you know, build our own economic strength. For me, the way in which I use bark cloth, and the way that I see that culminating in a viable way, you know, both in terms of making functional and sustainable product, I mainly use it, like I said, in accessories. So I create sculptural bags that, you know, both serve a purpose of function, but also take inspiration from a lot of different iconographies of ancient Africa. So I buy like books and read sort of articles and things about what these sort of different symbols mean, and then I incorporate that into my inspiration for the bags. The products I have coming up are, I made one bag which incorporates nylon with over-dyed bark cloth, which I've actually cut down and then weaved into straps for the bags, and those will actually be sold at Machine coming very soon. And I've actually experimented with bleaching techniques with bark cloth, and, you know, bleaching to different sort of levels. And then, you know, I've kind of got it to a level which is like a kind of ivory color, and then I've sculpted that into a bag as well. So yeah, that's kind of like the main way that I use bark cloth. Is really great for sculptural shapes, and I think especially when using it with bags, I always like to sort of, you know, have it combined with another fabric, so that it's you know, supported by something, because of course it can hold its shape, but if it's, you know, a bag, someone's going to be using that, you know, multiple times, you know, throughout the course of a week or whatever, throughout the course of a month, and, you know, over time things will degrade. So I think it's important to, you know, also protect the bark cloth as well by backing it with some sort of canvassing or, you know, some sort of structural fabric. Yeah, that's the way in which I use bark cloth with my accessories. But what other ways do you use bark cloth in your own collections?
That's a good idea that you just talked about. We actually also use interfacing for backcloth.
Yeah.
Majorly we use canvas. I don't know how they call it in England, but here it's like the thing with the glue, and it's also cloth, and it holds the backcloth together. So even when it tears, it can't really tear. So we use that to bind the backcloth and give it more durability, because right now the backcloth is not yet developed to a level where it can really hold that long. It's strong, but it can easily tear as well. Also, layering it. We in our costumes we layer backcloth. So we put one straight up and one horizontal and vertical, and in different forms, so that it gains that strength,
Yeah.
so it can tear. Then we stitch all over the backcloth, so it's now really strong. The only difficulty with that is that it becomes too stiff, and then when you pour water on it, it even becomes stiffer, because when you pour water on the backcloth, it hardens. It gets like, I think it shrinks. The particles shrink.
Yeah.
With time, we're still developing ways, but with time, that's what we're using at the moment. We are using it in costumes. We are starting to use it in shoes now. We are working with a guy, and we're making shoes out of backcloth. And also our signature bag. It's a small bag, a waist bag. And we also layer it with things. We layer it with a wax print inside, plus canvas. Yeah.
You layer it with wax.
Yeah, with the wax print, the kitenge, it's I think they've nicknamed it the African print.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I think also there's another sort of method of bark cloth which I think Bark-Tex have experimented with. I think it kind of limits the sort of sustainability and the biodegradable nature of the bark cloth. It's coating it in latex. I know they collaborate with these communities in the Brazilian Amazon, and they naturally tap rubber, and they use that for a separate fabric, which is like a shiny sort of latex fabric.
Oh.
And they also use that as well, and coat that on the actual bark cloth itself, which does support it, like you were saying, to bond it with another fabric. It gives it strength. Bark cloth already has a good property in terms of holding a shape and strength, but it can still tear easily. So Bark-Tex have created that combination of natural latex and bark cloth. But I think bark cloth is very interesting, because it does pose some challenges in terms of actually making it easy to work with, and I find myself, like you said, the way that you make your costumes, and you lay the bark cloth on the grain, and then you do another layer which is sort of cross grain. I think that's a good way to kind of maintain its strength. So for me, I really think that binding it with other sorts of fabrics and finding a sustainable way to do that is like the sort of next step in terms of making bark cloth profitable, and making it easier to work with as well.
The other way we were trying out is cutting bark cloth into smaller shapes. So instead of using a big chunk of bark cloth, you cut it into smaller squares maybe, and then stitch those smaller squares to make a fabric. That also gives it strength, because like you have smaller boxes and they're all connected with each other, and then there's like a top stitch, and so you can't easily tear it. It's still like really strong together. We made a jacket out of that, and it still holds its shape up to today. And it's been 2 years down the road. So I think that's also like another way. We didn't do it that much, but we tried it with the jacket.
Kind of like a patchwork of bark cloth. Okay, cool. It would be cool to also kind of maybe have like different colors of bark cloth and stitch them together in that structural way. So the method of stitching them together sort of has a decorative purpose, but then also it still retains its structural purpose as well. I think that's quite cool.
yeah, that's actually a good idea. Yeah.
In terms of your aspirations for bark cloth then, and if you want to even incorporate any other sort of cultural textiles that are specific to Uganda, or maybe integrate textiles from other African countries, what's your long-term aspirations in terms of where you'd like to see bark cloth go, and where you'd like to see cultural textiles go in the future?
I feel like this is a really good question, especially during this time where people are starting to experience the bad impacts of fashion and the textiles and the way they're produced. And then we have this side of things that has been done for centuries and centuries, and it's proving to work in form of sustainability. So I think it's a good idea to have such topics and such questions. And I feel like where I see bark cloth in the future is be developed into a more strong fabric, and it can be widely used because bark cloth on its own has its own special properties that other textiles don't have. Like it, bark cloth has been used centuries to keep people warm. However rough it is, it's been used to repel mosquitoes. These are all its properties, and we're just getting on the tip of the iceberg. But if there's more research, you can find that there's so many things that it can be used for. And for me, I feel like textiles that have been used for centuries should be the textiles that we try to research and develop more, because maybe they can help us prevent some of the problems and find solutions to some of the problems that the fashion industry has.
I think so too. Definitely, because like I said, it's biodegradable and it uses a lot less water for production. It doesn't really use any chemicals either. So yeah, I would really hope that it's able to sort of be used as an alternative to some other fabrics that we have commonly used today. I was thinking even as maybe a leather alternative. If it's possible to bind it with maybe latex, maybe not, maybe some other sort of material, some other sort of liquidized material that could bond on top of it, and really bring out those sort of structural and durable qualities that bark cloth has. It could even be used as a leather alternative for bags, having it become something as a sort of staple fabric when it comes to African textiles, and even within the wider world, within wider uses in fashion. It's definitely a way for Uganda textiles to sort of move forward and create a viable industry. Even back to what you were saying about the journey that bark cloth had during the colonial times, and when initially it was only for members of the sort of royal family and royal circles, and then later on it became something that was a lot more widespread. I think when it comes to things like bark cloth and African textiles, I think they should become even more widespread, and they should become even more encouraged to invest in, because of their potential in terms of usage within fashion. And I think if it is refined and it is developed into something that can be easily used and be easily worked with, it's definitely gonna have a real surge in investment, and a real surge in usage, which could provide more economic stability within Uganda, and then hopefully spread out to different areas within Africa, and even different countries. I know that bark cloth is produced in different regions around the world, South America and other places. So yeah, definitely I think that making it usable for different purposes, and investing the time and the money to do that research is kind of where we're at now, and also sort of the next step in terms of making it solidified as a viable fabric, because it already has that cultural relevance, it already has that sustainability. It just needs for us to keep experimenting with your jackets and accessories, me with my accessories as well. I think it just, needs, for people to continue experimenting with it and keep working with it, and, hopefully bring it to that level.
We just keep up advocating for backcloth. Yeah.
So yeah, do you have any projects right now that you're releasing soon, or something that you've just released? Whether you've used bark cloth or another African textile, or anything else that you kind of want to share or talk about?
Actually, next week we are starting a new project with a dancer. He's a contemporary dancer, and we're making for them costumes. I won't reveal most of the details for the dance piece, but maybe I'll talk about a little bit about the costumes. So we're making 15 pieces, and we're going to use backcloth and sisal and raffia, and we're going to use jute. We're going to use shells. So it's going to be a combination of things. It's going to be something like we did for Kampala Fashion Week for the Kampala disaster. So we made a collection in 2018. We made a collection called the Kampala Disaster, where we were showcasing the disaster of secondhand clothes and the alternatives we could use to kind of move away or try to incorporate our culture into the secondhand clothes ecosystem. And this collection, we used basically the same things. So it was shells, backcloth, raffia, baskets. We used what else? We used animal skins, jute, sack. So this is the collection we're making for him. It's called Sila Robert.
Wow, that's a lot of different materials mixed together.
Yeah.
For me, so I'm releasing my collection soon, selling with Machine A, and also on my own website. And within that, I'll be selling bark cloth accessories, and I'll be releasing my new accessories used with bark cloth, which we've experimented with, like bleaching and dyeing of the bark cloth itself, and then sculpting that into different shapes, and then combining that with the functional parts of the bag to be woven with bark cloth and other fabrics as well. I'm also working on another project with a charity called the Araba Scott Children's Foundation, where we're actually using some images and material from my own research to inspire the children to create artworks that sort of tell their story of upbringing. The charity is based in the UK, but they mainly work with children in St. Thomas, Jamaica. And we're going to collaborate with them and use the children's artworks to inspire shapes and silhouettes, and also prints for some pieces, which all of the proceeds of those pieces will actually go directly back into the charity.
Are they going to be using backcloth, or are they going to be making pieces?
So they'll mainly be creating artworks that whether that's 2D or 3D, and then what we'll do is we will use some of those for some pieces that will use bark cloth, and then others will be made in other upcycled textiles.
Oh, okay. That sounds interesting.
Cool. So thank you for your time. It was great talking with you, and I hope there were some important things in there that people could pick up and sort of get to grips with bark cloth and the potential it has, the ways in which we've used it, and the importance of really trying to tell a story through fabrics, and through the use of choosing specific fabrics, and the sort of cultural story behind those fabrics as well. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I hope all your projects go well.
Cool. Well, I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.